Hello, Emily Miller.
Kate Richburg.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I want to apologize to everyone because it's my fault. What a surprise that we're tardy. Emily's in. We're like playing around with all the settings like we usually do. And I'm all, girl, I can't hear you. And she's like, I can hear you. Everything's fine. I'm all, no. So she goes out, she comes back in, goes out, comes back in. And then in my former Apple computer customer service way, when I start running through it in my head, I say, check to see if your volume's turned up. My volume was muted. Yeah, mute button, Carrie. It was mute button is what it was.
I checked my mute button just to be sure. And of course, you were waiting on me initially because I had to apparently for some reason, log out of Facebook, change my password, log back in again. Only on my computer. My other devices all have a different password now, which means
Yeah, so
tiresome.
good.
Yeah.
So what I do have, I want to show you, I have a cheese breakfast. I'm actually eating cheese in honor of our cheese queen, Margaret. It's a sharp cheddar, in case you're wondering.
Nice.
So there you go.
I didn't have any cheese yet this morning. I usually have some kind of cheese, but I actually had eggs and yogurt. So no cheese today yet. So far.
No, so far.
The days I did look at the feta cheese this morning when I was getting the eggs out, but
I like that story. Yeah. That's right. Well,
yeah.
And here's our buddy, Katie Hacker. Katie Hacker, it's great to have you here. Katie's running around in the background doing some fun things for Bead Shop that we're going to share with you all.
Awesome.
Coming up, but our buddy is here. So it's like all my friends are here. It's so good. Joy is coming to the retreat. We're going to have great retreat weather. Emily, we're going to miss you so much.
The retreat is like tomorrow, right?
It feels like tomorrow because I still have a lot of stuff to get ready, but I've got, it's all like here. It's all, what do they call it? It's all in the marshalling yard. I just have to take it from the marshalling yard.
It's in the depot.
What's that?
It's in the depot.
It is. It's in the depot. So
we have some heavy construction work going on our kind of the main street near me, and they've put in a depot at the end of our street. So every morning there's this crowd of guys out there changing from their Crocs into their work boots in their cars, and then getting on all their high visibility vests, and then they have a little stand-up meeting.
Right. Oh, I love, how I love a stand-up meeting. That's my favorite. You're frozen, Em. At least you're frozen on my side. Is Emily still frozen? I was in the middle of that stand-up meeting comment. Let me know if you're watching, if Emily's frozen. Maybe I'll take her out and put her back in. Yep, she's frozen. I'm going to remove her and put her back in. Let's see. Yep. Oh, there you are. You're back.
Okay. It just went away and was spinning on my end, so.
Yes. No, you're good. You're good. It was a perfect screen grab, too, because you were talking about the stand-up meeting, and I love a stand-up meeting, and then everything ended. So.
Stand-up meetings are awesome. They really are.
My favorite.
Been watching the construction guys, and little improvements down the street.
That's right. That's right. Well, you've got some good project for us today, my friend.
I do have a fun project.
I can't wait. Oh, you know what? Your demo camera. Sorry, Em, your demo camera fell out too.
Oh, let me give me just heartbeat here, and I will try and get that back in there.
Yep. No worries. No
It says.
worries. While you're doing that, it's not back in yet, but I know you're getting it. Margaret said she got her Bead Shop Studio shipment yesterday and loved everything. I'm so glad because tomorrow I've got another studio drop. You're going to be the first to know about it because some of it's going to be singles. I've got things over there. I cleaned out. I've got some restock of our fun serpentine and everything. That's coming in. Then I have a bunch of single strands of the best strands of African trade beads. So they're going to go in at midnight Pacific time. I can't do anything about that. So if you're up at midnight PT, check Bead Shop Studio because you'll be able to nab some cool stuff. Anywho, it looks like you're back.
Got my camera back again.
Let me mute that one. Let me put that one up. And people want to know, it's like the red carpet. What necklace are you wearing?
This is some bead crochet, which was kind of an experiment. So these are transparent beads, and
I'm going to solo you.
Instead of having the bead color be the thing, it's the thread color inside the beads that's changing color. So this was kind of a trial run. I was making one of these for one of my sisters, and this was the trial run. But
that's the one you were chatting about earlier. I'll put it on the. Let me highlight this one. It really, really. So that's all the same bead, M. Is that right?
Right. The thread colors are different. So there's sort of a gold. There's a purple. There's a green, and a ivory, and a white. It's kind of something I've done before. Once upon a time, when I started doing bead crochet, I got very hooked on using crochet cotton, which was kind of what I heard about initially and what I first used. And you could buy that in variegated colors.
Right, so I remember that.
As you crocheted with it, it would change as through the piece. So I made a couple pieces with just a clear seed bead, which I gotta tell you is super hard on the eyes. And this was a bead that I had bought ages ago in the old days of Baubles and Beads. And I had I think I bought a half kilo of it because I loved the bead itself.
Right.
And so it's just been kind of waiting for its moment in the sun.
Right.
So it's kind of fun though, isn't it?
It's gorgeous. So Karen K is asking, it's beautiful. Can we have a tutorial on it? Well, Emily, you just did a bead crochet tutorial.
And there's actually another one coming up in, I think it's October now.
Yeah, in October. That beautiful one. So essentially, you just take that bead crochet tutorial and use the clear bead.
Yep.
And change the thread around. It's over on beadshop.com under all of our learning. Emily did a fantastic job. I've got mine over here. I'm limping along, but that is just prime.
Well, I have been having kind of a bead crochet moment in my days, as we all do. You know, you get obsessed on something and you can't let it go. And then I found kind of an old project that I made ages ago as a hat band. And
Emily,
I took it off the hat that was on. So it's necklace length. I mean, I can get it over my head, but it's all of the different stringing patterns done. I think I did this with like what I considered my favorite beads that I really loved.
Right.
And all the different patterns that you can create with just 6 around, right? So this is a sort of a subtle one to see, but it's 2 different groups of 3. There's 3 Picasso, and then that are a dark, and then a light, and then a dark green. But it makes a very subtle kind of fun pattern. And this is a 3 and 3, and this has some very irregular beads in it. You can see these days I would have called out these bigger, kind of lumpier ones. If you untwist, you can kind of see what this would have been one and one orange, one yellow, orange stripe.
Right. You could use, we have someone was asking about our beads. We have the ADOT matte crystal. I just put it in the chat. The ADOT matte crystal would work with that, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll try and find the number on this one. It's a matted kind of cream color.
Okay.
I don't know if I have it here in a tube. I do. This is what it looks like in the tube. It's kind of got a little bit of a warm tone to it, almost
right
color.
But they're so pretty. I like that.
I'll try to get the number for that. I'm not sure that it's a Toho. It may be a Miyuki or a Miyuki, not a Toho bead. But I'll try and get you for that one. So it's just bead crochet has just been kind of obsessing me right now, and so it's just been what I've been playing around with the most.
Wow, that's great.
And I have to take regular breaks because my shoulder ends up hurting, and I don't want to hurt myself. Some of our bead friends have given themselves bad issues with their carpal tunnel and other issues, and really, if you're beading with little beads, like we're going to do today, I would actually take a break about every 20 minutes or so and rest your hands, rest your shoulders, release your shoulders, set them back down again. Look at something far away from you for a few seconds. Your eyes off the screen or off, whatever paperwork you're using, or just the close-up looks. Just take a good breather for your body. It's very hard on us to be doing a pinching movement, which is what we do when we hold a needle. So if you find yourself doing any kind of needlework for long periods of time, just take a break every 20 or 30 minutes and, move your shoulders around, move your hands and wrists around. You can give yourself a little massage in your hands and wrists, stretch your fingers back, opposite direction. Any of those kind of things really it's refreshing for your body, and it gives you
it's helpful
to do what you're doing longer,
for sure.
And really, people, our metalsmithing folks, we know that we should be wearing eye protection, and we know that if you're doing a lot of hammering, you should be wearing ear protection to make sure that you get the most mileage out of the body that you have.
That's correct, for sure.
Yep.
I've got a quick question from the comments.
Yes.
Let me go back. Yvette had a quick question. What's that?
I see one here about a bright color thread would show up less neutral.
Oh, I was going to go back to that, but let me do this one first.
Okay.
Yvette asked about how do we close that bead crochet. Yvette, if you go to, Emily did such a great job on that. It seems like a few of you might have missed that live broadcast. It's here on the YouTube channel.
Maybe 2 months ago, back in May.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if that. Though time, goes by so quickly.
It's actually August, maybe June.
Right. Who knows? And then we did a handout and everything for it, right, Em?
I did not do a handout for this one.
Oh, we have one for the other one, for our first one.
So even farther back, which was like, I want to say it was like 2017, which is
I think that's correct. Yes.
In the amount of years, go back to start with that one, and then go forward from there. And I would really say if you don't have any crochet experience, first go look at Bits and Pieces Crochet. So that's
right. I'm going to put the link in here.
The simple act of crocheting with thread and beads, not the tubular kind like we do in the necklace or the bracelets. It's just the straight crochet, which makes great. It's a great way to incorporate thread and beads together and have the fiber be important to the beads and the stringing and really show. So I would start there. Then you can go to bead crochet, and then you can go to bead crochet bangles. So there's 3, and there'll be another one. I think it's actually moved over to August or October now. There's another one coming up where we're going to do more bead crochet.
Yeah.
But if you've never crocheted before, that I would try that, doing that a little bit of just crocheting first. And
Right.
you can go to your local yarn store. So hopefully you still have a yarn shop in your neighborhood, and say, I just need to get started with crochet. Can you show me how? And they will sit you down with yarn and a hook and kind of get you going. That once you have that established and you're very comfortable with doing that, and you can do it with maybe a couple of different kinds of fiber, then launch yourself into bead crochet, and you will hopefully never look back.
Yeah,
you know?
both of those tutorials that you did, Emily, they were really great.
They're super fun. It's a really I think it's a great portable pastime.
Yeah. And Karen K is saying it was 12/6/2017 was that first one.
Thank you.
So Donna Chandler has a quick question, Emily. We're using wooden beads for this project, correct?
Yes.
And these are 12 millimeter, is that right? I should check.
I think these are the 20 millimeter.
Oh, 20. Hang on. Let me 20.
Let me just grab I have one sitting right here. I'm just gonna.
Okay, and I'm gonna go to the project. They're 12 mil.
Sorry?
They're 12 millimeter.
Oh, okay. Then I read my own notes wrong.
So
that's why I didn't have any out, and I went and got some more.
Right. 12 mil. So Donna is asking if she can jump up to the 14 millimeter. You might have to adjust your bead count though, right?
You'd probably have to adjust your bead count. You probably could do it. This was not my own pattern. This was when I got started with this particular. Let me finish one question back.
Sure. Of course. And then we'll.
She was asking about, I think a bright color thread would show up less neutral.
Yeah.
I think if the brighter your thread, the more it's going to show up between the beads. I used on this long necklace, I actually used a nylon thread from sewing thread that's like a top stitching thread. And it doesn't really come in very bright kind of primaries. All the colors are kind of on the muted side. If you want to use micro Ceylon, you certainly can. The drape and the hand of micro Ceylon or any of the Ceylons tends to be a little bit stiffer than. And I was going to talk about thread. We were talking about variegated colors and stuff like that. So I've evolved through several different kinds of thread with bead crochet, and I like using the bead crochet thread that kind of fits the process. If I'm making a bangle using a stiffer hand thread, so like the micro Ceylons or the Ceylons, gives it a little bit more stiffness, less drape, and that seems to work better for bangles for me. I like the effect better. If I'm doing something that's going to be a long necklace, having a little bit more drape, a little bit more flexibility, kind of leads me into something that's a little softer, if that makes sense. So color and drapeability, all those things I kind of take into account for sure.
Nice. All right. Perfect. Thanks, Em, for that.
Sorry, that was
obviously we teach bead crochet like every week along with pearl knotting.
I mean, you could it for sure,
It's so fun. It's really fun.
It is really, really fun and super entertaining. Okay, so back to today's project. Sorry, everything got. Whew,
no, it's fun that way.
I got changed around here. So today's project was actually a project that Janice actually tasked me with working out and bringing to us. And this was a free project that's presented by one of our suppliers that supplies our beads, so it's Beadsmith. And this pattern comes from the OG of beaded beads, Sharri Moroshok. And I have to say, I met her one time in person at a bead show, and I was suitably starstruck because her work is really quite amazing. And I have a couple pieces of her stuff, and I have not been able to put my hands on them. And they're somewhere here in my studio in a safe place in hiding. But if you look on her Etsy page or Google Sharri Moroshok, and I know we put it in the intro for this. You can find her work, and she does amazing work of beaded beads. She really is someone who has not only kind of pioneered it, but she's brought it up to another level. And when I say that, I mean that she's refined her techniques. She's refined the look of what she does. It's really, really impressive. It's nothing I would never be able to get to that point. It's just not my direction. But what she does is really some great stuff. I know that the handout for this is available. I think we have a link for it, but
yeah, and I put the link in the chat as well, so you can find the handout. But it's also on the
I did make a couple small changes as I went along with these, and I think if you start off with this, the first couple beads you're going to have to refer back to the directions, and then after that you're going to have a pretty good kind of rolling along feeling of this and being able to just produce these at will. They're kind of a simple process. They're the same on both sides. So we start in the middle for these beads, and we work towards the holes or towards the poles, if you want to think about it as a planet. And we're working from the North Pole to South Pole. So these are really a great beaded bead project. They don't make a very heavy bead. You could certainly use one of these for an earring if you wanted to have kind of a bobbly earring on the end of a chain, which would be super cute. And I think incorporating them into a necklace, you can incorporate these as tassel tops. They could be the end of a lariat to tie. They'd look kind of cool maybe at the end of a leather lariat or a suede cord with some other beads on it as well. And this is the lariat end. They really have endless uses. So they're really a fun bead.
I think I'm going to use mine. I did earrings. I want to show you these.
Yeah. Oh,
those
cute.
are the netted beads that you taught us. So I think I'm going to turn mine. I've got my little palette here. I think I'm going to turn mine into earrings. We'll see how far I get.
I think they would look really cute as kind of an earring on a chain.
Yeah, exactly.
And very 60s mod.
Yeah.
And you could do these in black and white. They'd be really cool and kind of graphic looking. It'd be really cool. Yeah. So Janice was asking me to come up with some projects to use SuperDuos. And, you know, I'm always interested in 2-hole beads because they don't lend themselves to my normal scheme. So it's always good for my brain to kind of pick something out of what I normally do and try and make something else out of it. I was so tickled to see these ones from Sharri Moroshok because, again, I'm a fan, and I think she's just done a really nice job with these. I made a couple of adaptations to them, and you can do your adaptations as you like. Of course, you can always take someone's pattern and run with it, and I use different beads and different color schemes than she had going. I was very influenced in my color scheme by researching Shetland sweaters. Kate, I know, has one on her needles.
I do. It's only been on my needles for like 3 years, but it's getting there.
I have always been kind of a fan, and I was reading and watching the series called Shetland, which is about a detective in the Shetland Islands.
So good.
So good. And every scene in the TV show, they show these folks, and they're all wearing sweaters. And there's beautiful patterns of these sweaters. A lot of them have kind of a little, I think of it as a little butterfly or a little X pattern on them.
Right. So the traditional X pattern. Yeah.
Yeah. As I started looking at patterns, I got more and more kind of interested, and I kept seeing more and more of them everywhere I looked. I also tend to start beaded beads that I make with dyeing the bead underneath. I really find that having that color underneath it gives it a background, and any little bit that shows through that little bit of color kind of helps it out. I'm just seeing this question, Janice, in the handout. Sharri doesn't use a wood bead base. No, she actually does use a wood bead base, Janice.
Okay.
Sorry.
See. Let me look.
It doesn't really show in any
of
the
pictures. Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, let me just show you what I do with and I've showed you this before, and you'll laugh when you see this plate. Can you see the little butterfly X's again? That little pattern really does pop up fairly often.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that funny?
That's so cool. And
So
yeah, she slips the bead in underneath, Emily. I think
yeah,
maybe we didn't scroll down far enough. I see it there. And
it
my
just doesn't show until a little bit later, you know.
yeah.
Um, I like to color the bead underneath, and whenever I do a beaded bead, this is kind of what I do. And you can use these for whatever you like. But here's my 12 millimeter bead, and keep in mind that a 12 millimeter wooden bead can really be anywhere from about 10 and a half to about maybe 13 or 14 and a half. They vary a little
Mhm,
bit, wooden beads,
mhm.
even the most pricey, expensive ones. I like to color them, and I like using alcohol inks. These are Tim Holtz
Yes.
brand. Mostly Michael's is my source for these, and they usually have a pretty good collection of them in packages of 3. Today I'm using the green called Lettuce, and I use a paper plate with a paper towel in it. I use a chopstick to secure the bead, and I really only do this because you guys have to look at my fingers, and they look funny when they're a million colors. So I just am protecting my fingers. You can get colors on your fingers if you want. It's totally up to you.
Mhm.
But I just drip the alcohol ink over the bead, and I guess I'm not terribly generous, but I'm not sparing either. I kind of make sure it's coated on all sides. And then I can safely put it down, and you can use the paper towel to kind of unscrew it and just let it hang out there till it dries. It, by the time you need it, it will be dry, so you don't have to worry. Okay.
Right.
The alcohol inks dry fairly quickly. You can already see it getting sort of not so shiny looking. And if you have to test it, you can actually put the skewer back in if you want, and roll it around on the paper towel, rub it on the paper towel, and you can see that it's almost dry. But eventually that will all kind of go away. There won't be any that comes off. And it just gives you that nice background color. Your choice, of course, on colors. You could do, I dyed a whole bunch of different ones for this process. And while I was picking out the colors and the combinations I was going to use. And so I have a bunch of colored ones. So nice,
That
easy
looks
way to
the
dye.
alcohol inks take to that wood so, so well.
Oh, super satisfying. Golly.
Yeah,
Um,
really
I
looks delicious.
think how lovely and how easy that is, and how my fingers do not look like my paper towel, because my fingers would look like this, and my clothes.
That's right.
Um,
That's
so the
right.
chopstick works really, really well to kind of help with that. The chopstick and the paper plate all working together for this process, right?
Looks
So
so good.
couple other little variations that I did on this. Sherry's pattern calls for true twos, which are 2 millimeter fire polished Czech glass bead. And I swapped those out for size 8 beads, 8/0 seed beads. You know, the true twos are, I think, a tiny bit big for this pattern in size. I think the 8s are a tiny bit small. I don't know that there's like a perfect match anywhere in the world. But I did like the 8s better in this particular pattern. And there's more options for colors also in the 8s versus the true twos. So it was a little swap that I made. And you can do whichever you prefer, but we're using 2 colors of the super duos, some size 15s, and some 8/0 beads. That's just for the bead. I used 4 millimeter and 6 millimeter fire polish to string this necklace. I just chose 2 colors and alternated it. And I used let's see, what was the name on this guy? You'll have to excuse me. I don't always know all the names. Oh, darn. I thought I had the little label here. Oh, the contemporary toggle bar and the
Yes,
contemporary
contemporary toggle.
pin.
Yes.
I love the thickness of this, and it just felt kind of, I don't know, like a good match. It might be slightly oversized, but I just liked that combination with all this to make this simple necklace. And I used a Softflex crimp cover, and I used a little bullion wire to make that transition between the toggle and the clasp and the stringing material. I like a
Nice.
little bouillon wire. I think it just looks like the whole piece is sort of together, you know. It
Yeah,
looks
integrated together. I
integrated.
have a
Thank
yes, I have a quick question for you, Em.
you.
There's been a few. Um, Janice is asking, will you show us the 12 millimeter wood bead next to the beaded bead to kind of
Sure.
show it has some definite size change
Oh
difference.
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, hold on. Did I just not have them right here in my hand?
If you had a bare one, yes.
Wait, I do. Oh, God, there. I'm sorry. The paper towel went over the top. So
Right.
sorry. Right? Shocking.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Right?
And then Kim Carnes is asking, and I think you've done this before, could you use a Sharpie to add the color instead?
Most definitely. Sharpies work
Yeah.
great. It takes a little longer, time wise, to do, but you totally could use a Sharpie.
Mm-hmm.
There are also some India ink markers these days at the art supply store that you might
Mm-hmm.
encounter that you could also use to paint them, and it's very permanent. You know, this is how many true twos of this one avocado color, opaque dark green I used for this whole necklace.
Mm.
So I almost used a whole tube, but I think the count is like you need like 40 something. I
Mm.
don't know if I've ever showed you this trick before, but if
Let's
I'm
see.
dumping out almost the whole tube, I will actually
Mm-hmm.
just put one bead in the tube.
Oh, that's
So
smart.
I know what goes back in there. And it might be more than one bead depending on, you know, what you're using. But
That
um
is super
that's
smart.
my way of knowing what bead goes where,
That's
when.
clever.
Um the end of the day comes when I have to put everything away, right? So these guys, make this guy, gonna grab a needle out of my pin cushion. Sorry if I bumped the camera, guys. It's right in this to get a nice clear shot for you. It's right where I'm used to being able to kind of move my hands around. So I'm going to bump it occasionally. And sorry about that. I've also been doing some other work lately using Fireline. And I find that when I am really deep in designing something new for you guys or something, playing with something new, I definitely kind of get really personal with my supplies. And I really like working with Fireline. I'm getting more and more comfortable with it. And it's really kind of the seed bead thread I'm changing over to for a lot of things. The only time I probably wouldn't use this is if I'm making just dangling fringe. It might be a
Mhm.
little bit too stiff, but I really I'm using it for almost everything. And the Fireline's a little more pricey, but it's super durable. It's actually really easy to thread in a needle. Doesn't get tangled. I can use a little beeswax on it if I want to give it a little bit more body. Um, yeah, it's really kind of becoming my go-to. It comes in
Yeah,
just a
agreed.
couple colors,
I like it. I like
which
Fireline a lot.
I think you may want to, depending on what color palette you've picked out for this particular adventure, you may want to actually try both the white and the gray and see what that does for you in difference of what you think of that thread showing a little bit. There's been a couple times where I've chosen the white, and as I'm working along at the beginning, I go, I can really see this thread. So I've made the change back to the gray and been much happier. So there may be times when you think you wanted the white, but you really want the gray. So it's not a bad time to do a little swatch test with that particular thread color, and that might be something that is a different changer for you with Fireline. So I'm going to cut a little piece here and go ahead and thread it on my needle. And another trick that I have learned over the years for doing something where I'm going to work half hemisphere at a time, and that's what we're going to do in this particular case. We're going to work half the hemisphere of the bead. We're going to work from the middle, work up one hemisphere to the North Pole, turn around and work the other hemisphere to the South Pole. One thing I've learned about this, and I did this in other projects, is to tie my thread to my work in the middle. So I'm using half my thread to do one half, and then I turn around and I have my other half of my thread at the other end to work with.
That's worth the price of admission, Emily. So smart.
I'm sure it's not my own idea. I'm sure I got it from someone, and it does seem to make good sense when you're doing something that's in halves. There might be other times you could do that as well, not just on a beaded bead, but there might be other times you'll find yourself trying to do something that's going to come out kind of in two halves. And one way to make your life a little easier is to just tie it in the middle of your thread. Now, I just loaded these up and didn't really count, so I'm going to have to look at them and count again. And for that, an awl is super nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Holy cow. I did it right the first time. Just for kicks.
Nice.
2, 4, 6, 8. So we're going to have 8 around on our first base row, or this middle row, this center, what do we call it? The equator. So I'm going to tie a knot.
So, Em, you have one SuperDuo in between or 2 SuperDuos?
One SuperDuo.
Okay. I'm just looking at the directions. It differs a little bit.
Does it say 2 SuperDuos? Or 1 SuperDuo? Oh, you're right. It is supposed to be 2 SuperDuos. Thank you, Kate.
That's okay, because I'm working along with you. I'm trying to stay ahead, and I'm like, oh my God, I did it wrong.
No, you did it right.
No,
I did it wrong. No. I was just concentrating on...
Girl, I'll tell you. Same.
Hashtag
same.
Thank you for stopping me.
No, it's okay.
Catching me in the middle of that whole process.
You know, it happens to the best of us. We go on autopilot when we're demoing.
Yeah, we're talking and not looking carefully. Yep.
Worky-talky.
That's amazing that I got the right number, but the wrong amount. So, you know.
The wrong amount. I was all, that looks amazing.
That's going to be really small. That's another key. Be small. You know, the other thing that you can do, and this is another trick that I taught myself, is if in doubt on a new pattern, you can always lay the first row out without So lay out the beads that you think you're going to need and count them a couple times, making sure you've got the right numbers of everything. You were so right, Kate. Thank you for catching me.
Yeah, no worries. Team,
oh, look,
man.
I got 3 in the middle on that one. Perfect.
Team. Real quick, while you're fixing those up, I want to tell you, Emily used in the SuperDuo, she used that avocado SuperDuo, which is no longer available.
What?
So we got a replacement. It's the SuperDuo with the gold luster. So I have, let me see, I thought I put it, I'm going to, while you're counting those, Em, I'm going to spotlight my thing so people can see it. This was, we got the gold marbled opaque olive. That's the new one. So we've got 19 of these tubes left. The avocado went. It's very close. We tried to get it, but it looks like it's not to be had for love or money. So you can see here's this one. It has a slight gold luster to it. And we've got plenty of those in. So if you want to sub, I mean, you could use any colors that you want, but I just wanted to mention that. All right, Em, I'll highlight you back.
Thanks for catching me, Kate, on the 2 SuperDuos in a row. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I got you.
You got me. So
you got me.
I got my 8 pairs of SuperDuo separated by a size 8 bead. So in her directions, this would have been a true 2 in between, right? And
correct.
I'm tying them in a circle. Now I have about the middle of my thread, and I pulled off about 2 yards of thread. Okay, so I've got about a yard at either side. I tied a little surgeon's knot. I'm just going to tie a second one there on top of the first. And if you feel like this starts to get kind of tangled, loosey-goosey in the middle, tie another knot. You're fine. The other thing that's kind of nice about this Fireline is it knots pretty well to itself, doesn't slide too much. And it's fine enough that if you tie a knot, it's not going to block up the hole in the bead. And that's always kind of frustrating. Now, this particular little pattern it's really peyote stitch, which is Sharri Moroshok's jam. This is the stitch that she uses pretty much for everything. So on this next round, we're actually going to treat each of these rows kind of like peyote stitch. It's really going to move. Each row is going to have a step up. Each row is going to move from stitch to stitch, from row to row, a little bit like peyote stitch. So you're going to complete each row. And when you complete each row, you're going to have to step up to the new row. So this is peyote stitch in the round, tubular peyote stitch. So we're having that step up in each row. And I know it's going to feel a tad awkward, and that's okay. Don't worry about the awkwardness. This is just, it just feels a little awkward. You're going to have to kind of stick with me, and it's going to be okay. Okay. The other thing that tends to happen with this, and I do use my finger more often than not, is this first little round of beads is actually going to lay down into the lower hemisphere. So if we're figuring out this is north and that's south, we're kind of working this direction first. And it's a little disconcerting because they kind of want to flip up. So you have to just kind of remember that if you just follow the directions, it's going to be okay. Okay. The first couple of times I did this, I felt the same way. I felt really awkward. If you want to find a pen or a tube that will fit in there to help you hold it round,
that would be helpful. Yeah,
you can do that too. I just didn't have to have anything, and I think after the first couple rows, you're going to feel like this is more manageable. So my thread's coming out of my in between SuperDuo. I'm going to pick up 2 of these SuperDuos. I'm going to stitch through that next 8. This is where we're feeling a little bit like peyote stitch, right? We're picking up a bead, skipping a bead, or 2 in this case, and going through another bead. And we're going to continue this little pattern all the way around. And even this little bit beginning, see how we have those little X's? That begins to better even so.
What I'm noticing, Emily, as I'm stitching along here, tension is really, for that first row, tension important. Is a thing. Yeah, important.
You know, it does help settle things kind of into their spots at first. I used to think that I used to be, I know I've said this before in different categories. I used to be a much tighter bead weaver than I am now. And one thing I think that's interesting about tension is everyone's going to have their own tension. And you're going to find your own personal comfort tension.
Yeah, that's true.
You feel better about it. And, like I need to go back and tighten up a little bit there. But I think kind of medium tension is probably best in general. I know that sounds terribly like, what is medium? No one knows until you've done it a few times. And it's true.
Yeah.
You have to do it a few times to get to know where medium tension is. Yeah. Too tight and you can't get in between the beads. Too loose, the thread's showing, and it's really hard to find your way. So something kind of in the middle is what we're after, right?
Correct.
I know that sounds kind of like I'm ducking the issue, and I'm really not.
No, not at all. Okay.
And here comes my last one. I'm going to go through that last 8. And I'm going to have to do a step up. So I can take a little moment here, just make sure my tension is snug enough to get all my SuperDuos standing up straight and there's nobody twisted. Nobody's in a bad spot. There's no weird loops of thread hanging out. I can just kind of walk my way around. All good. I'm going to do my step up, and I'm going to step up into the upper hole of the SuperDuo. Okay, the very next one. And this is a good place also to check your thread, make sure it's not tangled around other beads, as it can, and it will get tangled, right? So our next little connection is going to be to put a size 8 in between each of these X's. And you can kind of look at the bead and sort of see where I'm at. So we're adding this little 8. The nice thing about also working hemispherically is that the other hemisphere is going to be the same thing, right? It's going to be the exact same process. So I'm coming out of the upper hole of this SuperDuo here. I'm going to go right into the next upper hole. Got a bead on my needle. And I'm also going to go through the next upper hole. So I'm going to get myself in between these X's, middle of the X's. I can imagine Kate's mom has got this on her giant screen TV and she's watching.
She is.
You watching? This would be, I think that Gwen would like a lot, actually.
Yeah.
This would be a pattern that she's going to enjoy doing. It's a little quilty looking, right?
It is quilty looking, which I like.
Don't you think?
Yeah, agreed.
It has a little bit of a knitterly, quilty situation going on. And I can see Gwen liking this one a lot. Plus, it's not very many components.
No, that's what I also like about this. You can just really, and these go, what do I want to say? They go super fast.
They do. They actually do go together pretty quickly, for sure. When you start to make 9 for a necklace, it's a little bit more of a moment.
Yes.
But okay.
But I'm making 2 for earrings.
That's right. If you only need 2 for earrings, you're good to go.
That's right. Yeah, my mom says, yeah, she loves it.
Good. Well, it was funny when I sent this to Claire and she said her mom liked it too.
Oh, that's awesome.
I meant to send her. I need to send her the link for the directions, so she can go look at it, because it is kind of a fun, easy one. And it, I just think it looks amazing.
Yeah, I really like the opulence of a beaded bead. It feels kind of like you're gilding the lily. I don't know. I like it a lot.
All right, so I'm going to go through that neighboring upper hole. This is where I began, and come out my very first size 8. Okay? Because the next round is going to be moving over to 15s. And I'm actually going to move. Let me grab a scoop, a triangle, and move those out of the way. I'm kind of done with them. They can go live over here for the moment. I don't know where we would be without triangle scoops.
I'll tell you what.
Right? All right. So now we need some 15s. And we're going to use an interesting number of 15s here. We're actually going to use 3 at a time for this particular group, this particular pass. And this is these guys right here, right? These 15s. And in between each 8 is going to be 3 15s. So this might be a place that you could play around. If you wanted to use these Charlottes, might be fun. The 12 Charlottes. We might actually need 2. So you'd have to play around with the spacing of these just a tiny bit. Some of the Charlottes are a little wider, some a little narrower than others by color. And I've seen a lot of talk about folks working with white seed beads lately and the struggles that they're having with certain colors of seed beads. White seed beads, in my experience, opaque white, have always been the ones that are the most irregular. So that means you're going to cull out things that are too narrow or too wide. And you're going to see the most irregular ones in the white colors. I find white also tends to be narrower by color than most of the other beads. So, and black beads are kind of at the other end of the scale. They can be a little chunkier. So look at your seed beads carefully. Japanese seed beads are always going to be the most even. Czech seed beads are going to be a little less even and require a little bit more culling. But across the board, opaque white seems to be the most irregular. Okay, so we got 3, and we're going to go right in using the 8/0 this time and having those 3 15s fit right in between the 8s. And I like how all of us say aughts or /0 or just the number interchangeably. You guys all understand that if we say 80, if we say 8/0, if we say 8, we all mean the same thing. And you'll see them written a bunch of different ways too.
Yeah.
I guess I mostly go with the 8/0 if I'm writing it. Sometimes you'll see it used as the degree sign as the way to differentiate them. But I think I like the 8/0. That's my favorite. I saw that, Karen.
Yeah. And my mom says these beads look kind of vegetative. And it appeals to her botanist background.
They do look a little bit like, oops, I almost stitched with 4. Gotta catch myself before I make a mistake. Gwen, you're right. I do feel like these colors are kind of garden colors. Zucchinis and squashes, all my favorite kind of bumpy pumpkins, right?
That's right.
All those things. So now I'm about to close this row. This was the row I'm working on right now, these 3 8/0s. Or sorry, 3 15/0s. I'm going to go through the 8 and I'm going to go through the 15s as well. So that's the step up. Even though that doesn't really look like much of a step up, that's the step up.
Right, now, I get it.
This is a time where you could actually pop your bead in there if you felt like your finger was not doing a great job, right? And if you put your bead in there, it's going to stretch things out just a little bit. But I find it's harder to hang on to with the bead in there. I just use my finger. It just seems to be the easiest thing for me to do is to use my finger. And it's your choice. You know, you can do what you like. I'll show you later how to find the hole in the bead after you've closed it all in, because there's a little trick for that too. All right, now I'm going to change color. It's time for another SuperDuo. I'm changing color to this darker green one, and I'll have to check the color. This is the Nebula Opaque Green.
Yes, I love the nebulas.
It's super pretty. Nebula is a finish. So that finish on the outside of the beads, there's so many different ones. Ceylon, lusters, so many different options for colors. So I'm going to grab one SuperDuo. My thread is emerging from the 15s. I'm going to skip the 8 and go into those 3 15s, treating them like one bead and coming out again. Okay. And I'm going to continue all the way around using those 3 15s as my stitch through bead. I'm skipping that 8/0. Sorry, I had some pens in the way over there. It caught my thread. I don't know. My
pens.
Pens. I got a new pen the other day, Kate. I'm going to send you one.
Okay.
Really nice.
Emily and I have an unnatural affinity. I hope we're not alone in that for new pens.
And I need an email for Michelle. I need to send her a thank you for that 4-color.
Yes, I love that pen.
Has the little latch on it, so I can hang it on something. It's very handy.
Yeah, I love mine.
But yeah, I found a new pen. I was reading a review of stationery products for 2023.
You know, well, that's how crazy we are. Speaking of pen lovers, you know who's coming to me on Monday, one of our other.
Cynthia's going to be in the house.
She is. Talk about a pen lover.
You guys, I would want to be at the retreat with Cynthia.
We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to miss you.
Yeah. Cynthia and Azalea, both.
It's going to be fun times.
What good girls.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
So fun.
And having a shot in the arm of a 20-year-old in the bead world. My goodness.
Yeah, she's so clever. She's starting to really make a lot of great clothing and stuff too.
Oh.
She's great.
Makers can't just make one thing.
And Michelle is watching Emily. She says, "You are welcome." She loves her a multicolored pen.
Oh my God. All in one. It's the best.
It looks like we are not alone in pens. Carrie Keaton, her parents had a stationery supply store growing up. Can you imagine that, Emily?
So I was just talking to my sister. My dad was a journalist, worked for the feds, the government, and he would bring home early in the 70s. 70s. He would bring home boxes that were made by the Xerox Corporation. The Xerox Corporation used to make its own paper.
Right.
For the Xerox machines. Can you imagine that?
I actually can, because I remember those days.
Oh, Xerox. Gosh.
Yeah.
The old days. So now I've progressed all the way around. I've added all my 8 more SuperDuos, right? So this bead is decreasing in size by the choice of beads in each row. Not the number of beads, but the choice of beads in each row.
Right, right.
So this is a way to actually decrease towards the pole, the North Pole or the South Pole, without having to change your count of beads. So when you start looking at patterns for beaded beads, there are various ways that this is done, either decreasing the number, the size, the shape, all those things get you to the same point. This is just straight peyote stitch. So I could have either used a decrease, which I would have to space out evenly the equator, or change the bead size. So it's another kind of clue about how beaded beads kind of come together. So I've finished stitching this row, and I've finished the bead, but I haven't stepped up yet. So my step up is going to be through the lower hole of that SuperDuo. Okay. Pull everybody up a little bit snugly. And now this row is going to be 115 through. Okay. Pass through the lower hole, skipping over the group of 3, and it's going to have 115. And what do you think that's going to do to this? It's going to cinch that in.
Yes.
It's going to get small now.
I'm doing that as we speak.
Right? Suddenly smalling. It's smalling it up.
It really, I think the light bulb really turned on here, and we're using the same number of beads, but as you say, you step down that size, and that's what makes the reduction, not the number of beads.
Yep.
That's something to keep in mind.
So when I do my netted beads, netting as a seed bead stitch has a lot of air, a lot of space in between the nets. And I don't decrease it at all. I make it just big enough to go around the equator. And then the netting, by its own very nature, because it is so elastic, it expands or contracts on its own.
Right.
So that netted bead has the same process. It's just a different process, right?
Yeah.
It's by its own nature of the size of, or the style of the nets. So I've gone around and put 115 in between every lower hole of the SuperDuo. I'm going to finish the row by going through the first added 15. And I'm going to step up to the upper hole of the SuperDuo. It's interesting. I think when you do something, and if you do something enough times, and make 9 of these will get you a really super awesome handle on this project. If you make something multiple times, you will gain insights that you don't gain just by following the directions once. So I do think multiples are super interesting for all those reasons. So I'm coming out of the upper hole of that SuperDuo, and without adding any beads, I'm going to stitch around the hole, all the holes, upper holes of the SuperDuos. So we're doing peyote stitch with a combination of 1 hole and 2 hole beads. It's very cool. But this is basically peyote stitch, right? So I've gone all the way around to have my closed off north pole. And you can add your bead in here if you like. If you want me to make this one with just a plain bead, no color on it, you can compare to what it looks like with bead, right? So I found that if I did this part with the bead inside, gave me a little bit more even feeling to it. I'm going to pass through all the beads, top hole of these beads again, to give me kind of a bit more thread to pull on here. And I'm going to cinch it down to make the beads all kind of come in and close up nicely. Now I want to bury that thread down in my beadwork. So I'm going to go through that next little hole. I'm going to go through that single 15, through that lower hole. I'm just kind of going on a diagonal down. And I'm going to go back on myself by going through the 8 and the 3 15s. Maybe I'll do that twice. And sometimes I can get through 2 rows of beads. Not always. Sometimes I have to just take it one at a time. And I'm going to go backwards again, kind of crossing my path a little bit. I find that with peyote stitch, I don't really need to tie knots in it, and it's better, kind of breathes better if I don't. So I'm just going to overlap on myself a couple times, and then I'm going to cut my thread off and go to the other end.
Janice also put up I showed that up there, the netted bead that you were talking about, Emily. That was a great one that you did a while back for us as well. So if you missed that broadcast, you can find it.
I was having memory about that bead because it was the first one I did at our bead retreat. The first retreat I did, the first one we did.
So fun. So
right now, inside the netted or the beaded cap I have here, you can't see the hole of the bead, but that's okay. If you take your awl, you'll be able to move it around hole to stick your string material through. So don't worry about the hole kind of getting misplaced. It won't really matter. Okay. So we're halfway through, and we can just do the other side with the same maneuvers that we did. I'm taking the other end of that thread that I've got, right? Because I tied it in the middle. That was one of those tricks about doing a beaded bead, which I just thought was super smart.
Yes, very.
Right. All right. So we're back we're back
with that first side.
Yeah. We're back in business again. And my thread is not coming out in the optimum place where I would like it to come out. So I'm going to actually work it through a couple of beads to have it come out where I would like to. So you can do this as much as you need to. Turn your thread around, or if it's coming out the wrong direction for you, you can certainly move it around, right? So here I am. I'm going to do the same process we did before, picking up an 8, coming out of the upper hole of my SuperDuo, going through 2 upper holes, and continue around This is the lather, rinse, repeat, as Janice knows I like to say, because we're really going to do exactly the same thing on this side that we did on the other. So it does move along. You know, we already know where to go. You can always refer back to the first side. And once you've got a good combination going, you can play around this with all different colors if you like. We could have done 10 different colors, 8 different colors of super duos, if we wanted. Maybe we'll make rainbow ones next year for June. What do you think, Kate?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'm using some multiple colors. I'll show you what I did on mine. I did 2 colors of the nebula. And then for my base bead, I couldn't find alcohol inks. What a surprise. But I did find my my acrylic paints that I have in metallic.
Nice.
So I painted my base bead. What a surprise. Copper metallic.
Sweet. Sweet. So I'm right into that next row here. I'm going to pick up my 3 15s. Okay. So I've done this row with the 8s, and now I have my 3 15s that I can add across. I do like the second half of a beaded bead.
Yeah.
It does mean you can just sort of sail along here without too much thought.
And I'll tell you a tip. I made a mistake and I fixed it. Since we're on that 3 line of 3, I had gone around and then I put 2 instead, and I didn't notice until the following round. So what I did was I went through, since I just had 2 beads on, I went through the first bead of that pair. I slid a bead on, and then I went through that second bead. So that new bead kind of shoved there in the middle, and you can hardly tell it wasn't supposed to be there.
Perfect. Perfect.
Instead of picking it all out, because I was like, oh, wah, wah.
Even with that one little bead size change, suddenly that bead is inside that. And now I have a bead to hang on to. Now I have something to hang on to. It feels so much more secure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I have that. So now I'm on to using super duos again, and I'm skipping over the 8, passing through the 15s again. And this goes, oh, look at that, Kate. I call out a mistake.
Yes. Oh, right? Yeah.
You know what? It's only one. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah. Well,
it'll be fine. No one will know.
No.
Except for all of our 100 or so friends.
All of our viewers. Yes. Actually almost 200 viewers. Yes.
But no one will know.
Denise Gordon is saying this colorway really reminds her of Unikite. It does have a Unikite feel.
It does. You're absolutely right.
Which I like. Robin says, if you were just making these for earrings, these could look really cool ombre from hole to hole.
Direction, ombre, so light to dark or dark to light.
Yeah.
I concur.
Yes.
So I just finished watching all the way through again, Call the Midwife. And I thought of Kate the whole way.
Yes, I love that show.
Because I thought this was your era. But
it's so my jam.
That's right. It was really fun to watch the fashions change also. And as it ends in the 60s, I think it ends in the 60s, or maybe the very early 70s. It was just cool to watch all of not the uniforms, those didn't change, only twice in the whole thing, or once in the whole thing, but all the outfits that the women were wearing, and the hairstyles too, a little bit. But yeah, they went right into the mod, and the hippies were there as well.
Oh, I love it.
So I'm going to pass through that lower hole on the SuperDuo, and I'm going to do 1 15 now in between each one. This does not take up a ton of beads per bead. When you start doing enough to make a necklace, multiples, you're going to use up some SuperDuos for sure. But on the other colors, not very much, not very heavy need for a lot of beads. But that 60s time frame with the bright colors and the mini dresses, pregnant ladies in mini dresses, is super funny.
Yeah, no, I that's, as much as I love historical dramas just because I like the storylines and stuff, I love to also watch for, costuming, clothing.
Yep.
It's really fun to watch.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to finish this guy off by going through that number 115 again, and then up to the upper hole of the SuperDuo. And it's so fun to have it be complete just about here.
Yeah, I'm right behind you, Em. You lapped me, but I'm getting there.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to have you back there.
I'm a slow stitcher.
I think I've got a little tangle up here. It's a good time to fix it. I did. Yeah. Yeah, that only downside to using that dark thread on those dark beads is it's a little hard to see it sometimes.
Same. Yeah.
Right? So you can count this one ready for the podium.
Look, Emily. Yes.
Ah.
I'll finish up mine and then I'll flash on camera and show you. I think that's really fun. And what I'm noticing as I'm stitching, it's like there's so many quadrants kind of this bead, right? Mm-hmm. So you could, like, even this last little row of 15s, that could be a different color.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really, it's a cool bead. I know the one that was in the sample, those were using the SuperDuo duets, the ones that are a half and half color.
Yes.
Which was also cool. We carried those for a bit, and then they had their run with us. But those were fun to use. It was fun on that original.
Yeah, they could be half one color on one side, one color on the other. Yeah. I just think I just love these, and I don't know why I have that connection to the Shetland sweater for this pattern, but it really looks like that to me.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love a Shetland or a Fair Isle.
Yeah, and finding, having all the color combinations too that you might play around with this. Oh, so much fun. You could really get inspiration from anywhere. Now that I'm looking at this more and more, Gwen, you are right on the money with saying this is kind of vegetable looking. You're right. This is summer squash.
Yeah, so good. Em, would you also measure that bead?
Sure, after the fact.
Yeah, after the fact, because it has a 12 millimeter hole, 12 millimeter wood bead on the inside, and then we'll see
on the outside.
Yeah,
I bet I'm going to say this comes out in the 20.
I was going to guess, 20
range.
22
that would be
maybe.
My idea. All right. I think that's enough back and forthing. And
Janice wants to make it in the Raku SuperDuo.
Oh.
That would be pretty.
So we always measure beads hole to hole. So yeah, I'm going to say, about 19 millimeter, 19 third millimeters. So nearly 20. Now, again, if you've lost your hole, the hole has kind of moved around, just grab an awl and that'll help you center that hole again. With your earrings, another trick you can do, since these wood beads have a really large hole, your head pin, and I don't have a head pin right at my fingertip right this moment, your head pin is going to wobble around inside there. So you can put some 11s or eight, even eight, possibly eights over the head pin, and then string it through, and that'll help make that bead more stable and centered on the head pin. Right? Is that everybody's experience?
That
And
makes
I would
sense.
probably put a bead like these guys. I would put a bead on the bottom, then the head pin, and coming out the top, another little bead to kind of nestle in and fill up that little hole just a little bit. Right?
Yeah, same.
Oh, I'm so sorry about these avocado green ones going off into the sunset. That's
yeah,
too bad.
the avocados went off.
Oh.
But that's okay. I'm going to add my
Let's see yours, Kate.
let me see. I can see where my tension issue. I'll show you. Let me add it here. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. There we go. And I will highlight this for a second just so you can see it. But great tutorial, Emily. I followed right along.
Oh, good.
This,
oh, cute. 2 colors.
right? 2 colors. So what I did was, it really resonated with me when you said those X's, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll make a fair isle bead.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I alternated using this. That's the nebula, and I think this is the turquoise green nebula. That's the beige nebula,
right?
Turquoise green nebula. Then I used the Montana Picasso in the 8, and then I used the bronze, the matte bronze. I think it's the 2006 in the 15. And then I continued to alternate here. So there's the blue, the beige, or the turquoise green, the beige, the turquoise green. But what I was thinking, Emily, you could change out this little middle 15 for a little pop. You could change this 8 for something. It's really clever. And you can see here's where I used the, you can see one here I painted that color right there. And then here's the earring. I think I would do the same thing, Emily. I did that with this one, that netted bead. I put a large rondelle on the end, but I do something like that for this too. I don't know what, but I'll figure it out.
I don't know. You start to look at these, and they kind of are like a little flower form, a little bit. There's just a bunch of different ways to kind of look at this design. Could have been maybe a mustard SuperDuo at the top.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that there's a wrong pattern to this or not.
No, I agree. I haven't woven these off yet, but I want to see. I've got that nun. I think I need like a 6mm round underneath there. I've got that nun design cap.
Oh, the acorn cap?
Mm-hmm.
Acorn cap is really nice on these.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's going to cover up a lot of that SuperDuo at the top, but
this is that smaller one. This is that.
I love that acorn cap. It's been a favorite of mine from way.
This is the etched daisy one. I like that acorn one too. Etched daisy with, I don't know, you can play around with it and see what.
Did we used to have a more filigree bead cap?
I feel like we did. I can't remember. I can't remember what day it is today, but agreed. See, I have the 6mm under here, but this cap was made for an 8mm.
Yeah.
So if I put an 8mm underneath there, it might look kind of good.
Yeah.
I would find something, but play around with it. I think.
Well, and that Harlequin effect of having it be having there be 2 colors in that band, of the equator band, the beginning band. And that just kind of it brings into another era for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Here's the acorn one. Let's just see. It does cover up some of that SuperDuo, but not as much as you might think.
It's what I love about bead caps is they really change you can have one bead looking one way, you put a bead cap on it, and you get another look for it.
Yeah. I mean, look at how, I mean, I'd put a stabilizing bead in there for sure. But even that silver one looks cool on there.
Yeah,
So,
very much so. Very
yeah.
much so.
Super fun, Emily. Thank you so much for this great project. Will
Duos.
you?
Thank you, Sharri Moroshok, for this great project.
Yeah, so great. Will
Really
you?
good design, but you know, making some adjustments, making changes to things is totally legit. You know,
Yeah.
if you find colors that you like better or beads you think are going to work better, do it. Do
Yeah.
it.
No, I think it's great. Would you show the necklace kind of to the 4M just so
Sure.
people can see how you strung those together?
Yeah.
You can see that Emily put the 4/0 kind of plugging up the holes of the beads a little bit.
4
And then
millimeter
that,
beads in between, and a
yeah.
6 millimeter in between that. You know, we could have done a couple things here. We could have done 3 to 6 millimeters in here would have worked great as well
Uh-huh.
as an option. I just thought having a little bit more of those color pops kind of, it just, for me,
Yeah.
it just, you know.
Yeah, same. And I like the negative space that it builds around the bead too. It makes
I
the
think
bead
you
look
need
really
that.
round.
With these
Yeah.
big beads, I think you need a little air, a little
Yeah.
space, you know.
Agreed.
For sure.
Agreed.
For sure.
So good. Emily,
So
everybody is
good.
loving this so much. Oh, we could definitely, Michelle, use the symbol substitute beads
Absolutely.
in
And I thought
here.
that was after I had already started this, or I would have added as well.
Yeah,
The
they're so good.
symbol beads here would look so good for
Yeah,
sure.
it was
Even at
so
the
good.
ends for the end caps, the having
Hmm.
be all symbols or alternating symbols in there would be a really good one.
Yeah, it'd be nice for metal. That would be
Yeah,
cool.
that would be
Um,
really fun.
And the recipe, Susan, it's all on the page, but essentially Emily used that SuperDuo, an 8/0, a 15, and then another SuperDuo color. So
Correct.
4 beads in here, 3 bead types. Super simple.
Yeah.
And then Emily, you used, let me put us out here. You
Sure.
used a size 12 needle, right? That
I
was
usually use size 12. That's my
the,
common go-to. I use the 4-pound Fireline.
hmm
The Fireline is 4 pound, 6 pound, 8 pound. 8
hmm
is very big. 4 and 6 are kind of my go-tos.
hmm
And 4, if I'm going to be repetitively stitching through things, the 4 makes a lot more sense.
hmm
Um, if you think you're making something a little more structural and it's more strung, then the 6 might be a better choice.
hmm
Um, I'm working on a project. I don't want to spill the beans yet.
Mm.
I'm working on a old school coming back, making a new appearance project.
I know which project that is, Emily. I was just looking at it.
And I'm using the 6 pounds and the 4 pound. So I'm actually using both in different places. So the neck piece is going to have the 6 pound. The pendant, I'm going to call it, will have 4 pound. But it is, again, it's building in a lot of body. So it gives you a lot of stiffness, even if your tension isn't so tight that you might be breaking thread. But it does give you that body that you're going to want to have. And the neck piece is super interesting. It's going to, I think it's not coming until January 2025. It's a ways off.
It's a ways off, but it's going to be here before we know it.
It'll be here before we know it. So we'll get it done before Tucson, hopefully.
Yeah, we will.
And I think I may have developed a new stitch or a new use for a stitch, because I do enjoy working with square stitch a whole bunch. And if you go back to my last square stitch project, is it Modrion? Might have been the Modrion template was the last square stitch. If you go back there, watch it through, you might see a little something.
Yeah, that square stitch bracelet is such a good one. Our buddy Maureen, you've seen the ones she's made. She's gone to town with those. They look fantastic.
It's so funny. You never know when you come up with a design that you're going to share with everyone. You never know what design people are going to just grab and like run off with. And you're like, wow. I mean, it's amazing the stuff that she did with those. I was so impressed. And it's fun to see a project that I did 2 years ago
Yeah.
So they'll come back around and be like jazzing people up. So
Yeah. It's really fun. So
I
fun.
like that acrylic pancake you made there. That's so cute.
Oh, it was
I
fun.
like.
I have some ideas. I need to play around. My tension, this bead is a little, to be completely honest, it's a little
I think
loose.
it's probably okay.
I mean, it's fun. It's okay. My next
Yeah.
one, as you say, it's going to be better. My second
Yeah.
one, going to be
Yeah.
100% better. So
Absolutely.
size 12 needles, friends. It's all there. If you miss this or if you're watching this on replay, you can jump right over to beadshop.com. You'll see this this project. Everything will be laid out there for you. Drea, let me know. She's going to put the colorway on the homepage that I used for my bead here, so you can see the colors I used. You can also see the paint that I got
There
on
you go,
all my
Lorraine.
fingers. Here, there. Oh yeah, it looks great. Here, Em, I'm going to highlight you.
Lorraine said she wanted to see it on. There you go.
Yeah, it looks really great.
This is really a fun little necklace and very comfortable. Even though it's got some little bit of weight to it, with these beads, it's very comfortable. I've all morning actually.
I agree, Sandy. It looks even better on. It really looks great.
Thank
Really,
you.
really nice.
This is a
Thank
good
you
collar
so much.
filler, I think.
Yeah.
I happen. It's very warm here, so Kate is in the same mode of wearing things that are very loose and not a lot of extra stuff. So a collared shirt might be a little bit warm today, but I think in a collared shirt, this would be really nice to kind of fill in that opening at the top.
Yeah,
So.
it would. It would look great. A couple things before we break. I wanted to show up let me see if I can find it here. My friends, you can find us on all of the socials, Facebook, Insta, Pinterest. Hit that like, subscribe, and notification button over there on YouTube. You know that on the Wednesday show last Wednesday and coming up Wednesday, if you comment subscribed on those two, we're not going to count this broadcast, but if you comment on those that you have subscribed to our YouTube channel, and then for an extra entry to our contest, you can put down what you love about Bead Shop and Bead Shop YouTube tutorials. We're going to count those up, all of those comments, and we're going to pick a couple of winners from those comments, and we're going to give away some $25 gift certificates. So if you haven't watched last Wednesday's show, go back, watch it, drop a comment either in the comments or the comments during the broadcast. Same on next Wednesday's show that Cynthia and I are doing. It's going to be super fun. And then I'll pull the winner and I'll tell you what the winner is on the third Thursday earring show. And the earrings, I've got them sitting right over here. They're going to be super fun for you folks.
I absolutely missed this past Wednesday. I forget what was happening. I think I had to do some business errands, and I went out and did them, and then I came back and it was like, oh, it's over. I missed it.
It's over. I'm sure we talked about you because we talk about you every show.
Oh, silly goose.
Well, it's true. You're coming soon. You're coming back soon. You're coming back in September.
I don't think I'm actually coming back in September. I got to check my notes. Hold on.
I got to check my notes too. I don't know.
I changed a couple of different times.
Right.
And I know there's some big things going on. So
there is. We're gonna share some big things coming up.
I'm coming back in October. I won't be here in September.
Oh, October. Okay. Right. So. I'm looking at September. Yes, that is correct. October, you are coming back to us, Emily, on the 9th.
Yep. And then in November, and then not in December, and then January. Holy cow.
I know.
The year's over. How'd that happen? Right?
No idea. Crazy. Thank you, Emily, so much. Heather, I agree. I just love your techniques and I want to try this. I love that necklace. Tutorial was so thorough. And Kim Crawford says, thanks for linking that handout. The handout is great too. So,
and there are more handouts there, by Sharri Moroshok and others that I think are well worth looking at. please don't be intimidated when you see written directions with no video behind them. I think if you do one set of written directions by yourself, each one after that will be better. And
yeah, agreed. Yeah.
First one or two that take a little minute to puzzle through and kind of get used to the lingo and how it works. But once you get that in your learning core, you can go to all those other ones.
Yeah, it'll make it a lot easier.
Sherry does an amazing job. It's very well written, very well photographed.
Agreed.
So it's easy to follow through. And if this is a good one, go print the handout. You've seen me do it. I know you can do it. So
yeah,
do that.
100%. Well, thank you, my friend. I will be talking to you soon. Thank all of you for watching us.
Thanks, guys, for watching and hanging out.
Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Be creative. If you make some of these beads, you know what to do. Post them over on all of our socials. Yep. We'd love to see you. And do remember, yes, tonight at midnight, Margaret, there's going to be a studio drop. Oh. So it'll be there. I've got some work between now and then. But
you set your alarm to get up, aren't you?
Yeah. So all of you night owls, it's midnight Pacific. So you'll see what happens. All right, everybody. Thanks so much.
See you next time.
Talk to you all.